We put in place a degree of transparency and openness, the level of openness, transparency that this government has brought forward. To expect a greater level of openness and transparency. We decided, as we often do on this side of the House, to raise the bar on transparency and openness and demonstrate the kind of openness and transparency the Canadians voted for when they elected this government.
Justin Trudeau must really love hearing himself say that over and over again. So much so, I think he's even starting to believe it. But if you remember, we recently filed an access to information packet, and then it revealed that the Prime Minister's office refused to release the expenses of Justin Trudeau's best friend and senior advisor, Gerald Butts. And do you remember that Mr. Butts also found himself in hot water shortly after the election, when he and another top Trudeau staffer billed the taxpayer over $220,000 in moving expenses when they moved from Toronto to Ottawa? Butts did later repay $65,000 of that. We're appealing this decision to the Office of the Information Commissioner regarding the decision to hide Butts' expenses. But in the meantime, we also submitted an additional information request about the policy changes that were made in order to justify concealing expenses. Previous Prime Ministers Chrétien, Martin, and Harper all had to follow the rules, and their respective staffers in the PMO were subject to the same public scrutiny on things like expenses. So on October 13th, we wrote to the Privy Council's office seeking the following information. Quote, provide copies of any documents outlining the changes to access to information procedures and policies regarding the decision to redact the names of exempt political staffers from release, in contrast to past practice under previous governments, unquote. Pretty simple, really clear, right? Yet the response is just more brazen opaqueness from the supposed most transparent government ever. The entire reply is either heavily or completely redacted documents. So it does appear that there was a change in policy, a policy, by the way, that was catalyzed by Justin Trudeau's Prime Minister office staffers. None of the other ministerial staff, for instance, have had their names hidden from expense claims. So why don't they want to be transparent about all of this? It's ridiculous, because once you're expensing stuff to taxpayers and acting for the Government of Canada, you can hardly claim to be a private citizen. So there's no using that old excuse. At almost the same time that we received this heavily redacted packet, Treasury Secretary Scott Bryson attempted to defend in committee Liberal legislation that was introduced in June regarding access to information reform. These are proposed reforms which have not only drawn the ire of the opposition parties in the House of Commons, but also the Information Commissioner herself, Susan Legault, described the proposed changes as taking the public's right to know as, quote, backwards. Bryson, who is in charge of implementing the Information Act and any changes, told the committee on October 18th, according to the Globe and Mail, quote, as we developed these reforms, we were guided by the principle that government information belongs to the people we serve. We remain committed to this principle, unquote. I guess that's unless, of course, that information pertains to Justin Trudeau's staff and best friend Gerald Butts. For the Rebel.Media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Hey, thanks a lot for watching. You know, we've got a brand new slate of fall programming for you here under our premium content at The Rebel. If you want to check it out, go to therebel.media/shows.